My beloved child. Stop scrolling for a moment, because what you are about to hear did not arrive by accident. There is a reason your eyes landed here at this exact second. Something has been trying to reach you since last night. Something hidden beneath loud voices, forced laughter, clinking glasses, and the strange tension that filled a room where people pretended everything was normal. And even now, while you are listening to these words, a storm of emotions is moving behind the scenes that you cannot yet fully see. You felt it before this message found you. That strange heaviness in your chest. That sudden urge to check your phone for no reason. That feeling like someone was thinking about you so intensely that their energy crossed distance and reached your spirit. Pause here carefully, because heaven is revealing what happened when your person lost control of the mask they had been wearing for far too long. Last night was not ordinary. No matter how much they try to deny it today, no matter how much they laugh it off, no matter how many excuses are created to bury the truth, the spiritual atmosphere around them shifted in a dangerous and emotional way the moment they walked into that family gathering while under the influence. And child, they were not prepared for what came out of them. You must understand something first. People can hide emotions while sober. They can rehearse lies. They can silence memories. They can pretend they no longer care. But when the walls around the heart weaken, hidden truths begin slipping through cracks that were never supposed to open. And last night, your person walked into a room full of relatives, old history, pressure, expectations, and emotional triggers while carrying emotions they have been suppressing about you for far too long. That combination created something explosive. At first, nobody noticed. They entered smiling. Acting louder than usual. Trying too hard to look relaxed. But spiritually, their energy was already unstable before they even sat down. One older family member immediately sensed something was wrong. Another kept watching them quietly from across the room. Someone whispered, "Are they okay?" while pretending to continue another conversation. Your person laughed it off. But inside them, your name was already burning. Because before they arrived there, something had already triggered memories of you earlier in the night. Maybe it was a song. Maybe it was a picture. Maybe it was loneliness hitting them harder than usual. Maybe they saw someone who reminded them of what they lost with you. Whatever it was, it cracked open a part of them they had been trying desperately to keep shut. And when they entered that gathering, they brought all those buried emotions with them. What nobody in that room understood was this. Your energy was already present before your person even mentioned you. Heaven allowed your spirit to sit heavily on their conscience that night. Not to punish them. Not to destroy them. But because truth cannot stay buried forever. The conversation started harmlessly. Small talk. Family gossip. Random stories. Laughter that sounded normal on the surface. But then someone asked them a simple question. A question that should have been easy to answer. A question about relationships, love, the future, commitment, or why they still seemed emotionally distracted lately. And that is when everything shifted. Because instead of giving the safe answer they usually give, they froze. Only for a second. But heaven notices seconds humans ignore. Their eyes changed. Their breathing changed. The room became quieter without anyone realizing why. And then your person started talking too much. You know the kind of talking that happens when somebody is trying not to reveal the truth but cannot stop themselves from circling around it. At first they tried to speak indirectly. They said things like, "Some connections never really leave you. There are people you meet once and they stay in your mind forever. Sometimes you ruin something good because you're scared." Nobody understood who they were talking about except one person in that room. An older woman. Someone spiritually sensitive. Someone who looked directly at them and realized immediately there was still another person living inside their heart. You. And child, the more they spoke, the more emotional they became. Not crying yet. Not fully broken. But slipping. The alcohol loosened the chains around emotions they had spent months trying to control. And suddenly your person began bringing up memories without saying your name. They mentioned certain habits. Specific moments. The way someone used to understand them better than anyone else. The way someone used to calm their anxiety. The way someone believed in them when nobody else did. Every word they spoke was about you. Even when they tried to hide it. And the room began to notice. One relative joked, "Sounds like you're still in love." Everyone laughed. But your person did not laugh immediately. That silence exposed everything. Because deep down, they are still emotionally tied to you in ways they do not even fully understand themselves. They thought time would erase you. They thought distance would weaken this connection. They thought distractions would help. But heaven has a way of forcing truth into the light when a soul keeps running from what it feels. Then something happened that changed the energy completely. A family member asked them directly. If this person mattered so much, why did it end? That question hit them harder than anybody expected. Because they had spent so much time blaming circumstances, blaming timing, blaming confusion, blaming pride. But last night, for the first time in a long time, they were too emotionally exposed to maintain the lie. And child. Their face changed instantly. They looked down. Their voice lowered. And for a moment, they became painfully honest. Not fully. But enough. Enough for everyone at that table to realize there was still unresolved pain attached to your name. They admitted they made mistakes. They admitted they pushed away someone who genuinely cared. They admitted fear-controlled decisions they now regret. But the deepest truth almost came out after that. Almost. Because another relative interrupted before they could say more. And that interruption may have changed everything. The conversation shifted for a few minutes, but spiritually, the atmosphere was already charged. Your person became quieter after that. Their mind was no longer inside the room. They were somewhere else emotionally. With you. Memories started hitting them harder. The late-night conversations. The moments they felt safest around you. The things they never said properly. The affection they pretended did not matter. Child. They were spiraling internally while everyone around them continued eating, talking, laughing, and pretending the night was normal. But heaven saw what nobody else could see. Your person was fighting tears. And then came the moment nobody in that room will forget for a very long time. Someone mentioned your name directly. Not aggressively. Not dramatically. Just casually. But the second your name entered the atmosphere, your person completely lost composure for a split second. Their eyes filled instantly. Their jaw tightened. They grabbed their drink too quickly. One person noticed. Then another. And suddenly the room understood there was far more emotional damage hidden beneath the surface than your person had allowed anyone to see before. Child, listen carefully. People do not react like that to someone they no longer care about. They do not break internally at the sound of a name that means nothing. And your person realized in that moment that they had failed to kill their feelings for you no matter how hard they tried. That realization terrified them. Because they have spent so long trying to convince themselves they moved on. Trying to appear detached. Trying to look emotionally unaffected. But the spirit cannot lie forever. Especially not when heaven decides the truth must surface. One family member tried to comfort them. Another tried changing the subject. But your person became emotionally reckless after that. The walls were gone now. They started speaking with frustration. Regret. Longing. Confusion. They said things nobody expected them to say aloud. They admitted they still think about what could have been. They admitted they compare other people to you. They admitted nobody has made them feel emotionally understood the way you did. And then they almost confessed the biggest truth of all. But before the words fully came out, they stopped themselves. Because even in that emotional state, fear still controlled part of them. Fear of rejection. Fear of vulnerability. Fear that admitting the depth of their feelings would expose how deeply they are still spiritually attached to you. Yet heaven allowed enough truth to escape that everyone sitting there understood one thing clearly. Your absence still haunts them. And child, there is something else you do not know yet. Someone at that gathering secretly disapproved of the way your person handled things with you from the very beginning. This individual stayed silent for a long time. Observed everything quietly. Watched your person self-destruct emotionally in slow motion. But last night, they finally spoke. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But with painful honesty. They said, "You can pretend all you want, but it sounds like you lost someone real." That sentence pierced directly through your person's emotional defenses. Because deep down, they already know it is true. There are connections people enjoy. Then there are connections heaven marks permanently onto the soul. You were never ordinary to them. That is why even now, despite distance, silence, confusion, ego, or separation, your energy still reaches them when they least expect it. And last night, in front of people they never intended to reveal themselves to, your person accidentally exposed just how unfinished this story truly is. But child, what happened later that night is what nobody saw coming. After the gathering became more emotionally uncomfortable, your person stepped outside alone for air. The noise inside faded behind them. The night became quieter. And for the first time all evening, they stopped performing. No fake smiles. No pretending. No distractions. Just them, alone with their thoughts. And that is when your spirit hit them the hardest. Because sometimes silence becomes the loudest voice heaven can use. They stared at their phone longer than they should have. Unlocked it. Locked it again. Opened old messages. Closed them. Scrolled through memories they told themselves they deleted emotionally long ago. Child, they were losing the battle against their own heart. And what makes this even more intense is that they were not only intoxicated by substances last night. They were intoxicated by regret. Regret changes people in terrifying ways when it finally catches up. Especially when they realize the person they hurt may not wait forever. That realization started suffocating them outside that gathering. Because for the first time in a long time, your person felt something they had been avoiding completely. Panic. Not panic about losing control in front of family. Not panic about embarrassment. Panic that they may have permanently damaged something heaven once placed in their life as a blessing. And child, when that realization hit them fully, their entire energy changed. They became emotional in a way nobody there had ever seen before. One relative eventually walked outside to check on them. And what your person said next shocked even themselves. They whispered something they never planned to admit aloud. I still love them. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But honestly. And once those words left their mouth, they could not take them back. The silence afterward felt enormous. Because speaking truth out loud changes spiritual energy instantly. Your person sat there realizing they had finally confessed what their soul has known for a very long time. And the relative beside them became very serious after hearing it. No jokes. No teasing. Just silence. Then they asked the question your person has been avoiding internally for months. Then why are you acting like this connection is dead? Child. Your person had no answer. Because deep down they know this bond never truly ended emotionally. They only buried it beneath pride, distractions, fear, and avoidance. But heaven sees through avoidance. Always. And last night became a spiritual exposure they were not prepared for. Now listen carefully because this next part matters deeply. While they sat outside struggling emotionally, something unexpected happened inside that house. Your name came up again in another conversation. People began piecing things together. Small clues. Past behavior. Emotional reactions. Things your person accidentally revealed over time. And suddenly several people realized there was still an unfinished emotional attachment connected to you. Child, this is important because energy shifts when others begin recognizing what the soul has been hiding. Your person thought nobody noticed how deeply they were affected by you. But last night exposed everything. And some people there began questioning whether your person made the biggest emotional mistake of their life by letting you go. That thought followed them heavily for the rest of the night. Even after the gathering ended. Even after everyone started leaving. Even after the laughter disappeared. Because the moment people went home and silence returned. Your person could no longer escape themselves. That is when the real emotional collapse began. They replayed every conversation in their mind. Every accidental confession. Every emotional reaction. Every moment they almost reached out to you. And child, guilt started swallowing them alive. Not just guilt for what happened between you. Guilt for pretending they were okay when they were not. Guilt for hurting someone who truly cared. Guilt for allowing ego and confusion to overpower something genuine. But there is still one detail heaven has not revealed yet. One moment from last night that changed the spiritual atmosphere completely. A moment involving your name, a private confession, and a decision your person almost made before sunrise. Because while everyone believed the night was ending, spiritually, something was only beginning. And what they did next, what they almost sent, what they almost admitted completely, is the part they are desperately hoping nobody ever finds out. But heaven saw it all. And child, the truth is closer to reaching you than either of you realize. The night did not end when the doors closed behind the last guest. That is what your person keeps trying to deny today. They want to believe the emotional chaos faded once the gathering was over. They want to convince themselves it was just the substances talking, just temporary emotions, just nostalgia amplified by the atmosphere. But deep inside, they know something irreversible happened last night. Because truth spoken under emotional pressure still comes from somewhere real. And after everyone left, after the music stopped, after the forced smiles disappeared, your person entered the most dangerous part of the night. Silence. Child, there are moments when heaven removes every distraction from a person so they are forced to sit face to face with their own soul. Last night became one of those moments for them. They went back inside pretending to be calm. Pretending nothing happened. Pretending nobody noticed how emotional they became whenever your name entered the room. But several people noticed. One relative kept staring at them with concern. Another exchanged a quiet look with someone across the room. The atmosphere had changed permanently. Your person could feel it. And that made them deeply uncomfortable because they are used to hiding pain behind humor, distance, and emotional avoidance. They are used to controlling how others perceive them. But last night, control slipped through their fingers. Even worse. They realized they accidentally revealed feelings they have spent months trying to bury. That realization began haunting them instantly. They started replaying every conversation in their head. Every sentence. Every reaction. Every pause. Every emotional crack in their voice. And child, the more they replayed it, the more exposed they felt. Because somewhere inside them, a terrifying thought began growing louder. What if everyone now knows I never stopped loving them? That thought shook them more than they will ever admit publicly. They tried distracting themselves. Tried laughing again. Tried pretending they were tired. But heaven would not let them escape the emotional mirror being held in front of them. One family member approached quietly before leaving and said something simple that completely unsettled your person. You should probably tell them the truth someday. That sentence stayed with them long after the house emptied. Because your person immediately knew exactly who them meant. You. Not anybody else. You. And suddenly the emotional pressure inside them became unbearable. Child, you must understand something very important. When a soul suppresses emotions for too long, eventually those emotions begin searching for a way out. Sometimes they escape through anger. Sometimes through sadness. Sometimes through recklessness. But last night, your person's emotions escaped through confession. Not complete confession. Not fully yet. But enough to change everything spiritually. Around 2 or 3 in the morning, while everyone else was asleep or winding down, your person sat alone with their phone glowing in the darkness. That phone became a battlefield. Because your energy would not leave them alone. No matter how many times they tried distracting themselves, your presence kept returning stronger. Memories began attacking them one after another. The way you listened. The way you noticed things other people ignored. The way you cared even when they pushed you away. The moments they felt safest around you. Child, they started realizing that most people in their life only knew pieces of them. But you knew the parts they tried hardest to hide. And once that realization hit fully, the emotional walls inside them began collapsing faster. They opened your conversation. Stared at it. Closed it. Opened it again. Scrolled endlessly. Reading old messages with glassy eyes. Lingering on words you probably forgot you ever sent. Small moments that meant nothing to you suddenly became emotional anchors, pulling them deeper into regret. Then something happened they never expected. They started crying. Quietly at first. Just enough that they could still pretend they were fine. But the tears kept coming because regret mixed with intoxication creates emotional honesty people cannot control forever. And child, while they sat there breaking emotionally in the dark, they whispered your name out loud. Not once. Several times. As if saying it somehow made them feel closer to you. As if your spirit was the only thing calming the storm inside them. That is when they almost did something life-changing. Their fingers hovered over the keyboard. A message started forming. Not casual. Not friendly. Raw. Dangerously honest. The kind of message people only write when they are emotionally stripped bare and can no longer carry the weight inside their chest. At first they typed slowly. I miss you. Then deleted it. Typed again. I've been lying to myself. Deleted that too. Then they stared at the screen for nearly 10 minutes doing nothing. Child. Heaven was watching this entire moment carefully because your person stood at the edge of emotional surrender. And they were terrified. Terrified because once truth is spoken clearly, there is no hiding from it anymore. Then suddenly they typed something much deeper. Something they almost sent. Something that revealed the real wound they carry every single day. They wrote. No matter who I talk to or where I go, part of me keeps coming back to you. And when they read those words back to themselves, they completely broke emotionally. Because for the first time in a long time, they stopped running from what they truly feel. Child, the human heart can survive many things. Distance. Silence. Arguments. Pride. But pretending not to love someone when the soul still aches for them, eventually destroys a person internally. That destruction started becoming visible last night. Your person placed the phone down and covered their face. And suddenly every memory they suppressed came flooding back harder than ever before. Not only the beautiful moments. The painful ones too. The moments they hurt you. The moments they disappointed you. The moments they acted cold because vulnerability scared them. And child, guilt hit them like a wave they could not breathe through. Because deep down, they know you gave them a kind of emotional safety they may never find again. Yet instead of protecting it, they complicated it. One sentence kept repeating in their mind over and over last night. What if I ruined the best thing that ever happened to me? That thought terrified them. Not just emotionally. Spiritually. Because suddenly they began seeing your absence differently. Not as something temporary. Not as a game of pride. But as a real possibility. A future where you truly move on emotionally without them. A future where they become only a memory in your life while you become the greatest regret in theirs. Child, that possibility shook them deeply. More deeply than anyone around them realizes. And what happened next became even more intense. Because while sitting there emotionally overwhelmed, they accidentally opened an old photo connected to you. The second they saw it, everything inside them cracked wider. Memories became vivid. Your voice. Your energy. Your expressions. Moments they thought time erased suddenly felt alive again. And they started talking to the photo as if you could hear them. Apologizing. Explaining things you were never supposed to hear. Admitting truths they hide from everyone else. They confessed they still compare everyone to you. They admitted nobody has emotionally replaced you. They admitted they are exhausted pretending they do not care. Child, imagine how spiritually heavy a moment must become for heaven to allow a soul to confess love to a memory in the middle of the night while fighting tears alone. That is how emotionally shattered they became. But this is where the story turns even more unexpected. Because just when they almost sent the message, someone interrupted them. A family member walked into the room unexpectedly. And your person panicked immediately. They locked the phone too quickly. Wiped their face. Pretended nothing was wrong. But the other person saw enough to understand something emotional was happening. Then came a conversation your person never intended to have. The relative sat beside them quietly for a moment before asking softly, "Is this about them again?" Child. Your person froze. Because even hearing someone acknowledge your presence emotionally made their chest tighten. At first they denied it. Tried brushing it off. But the relative did not believe them. And eventually your person gave up pretending. What they admitted next shocked even themselves. They said, "I tried to move on. I really did." That sentence carried so much hidden pain behind it that the room fell silent afterward. Because people only speak like that when they are losing a battle against their own feelings. The relative looked at them carefully and asked the question your person fears most. Do you think they still love you? Child. That question destroyed their composure instantly. Because despite everything, despite the distance, despite the silence, despite the confusion, your person still hopes your heart belongs to them. And that hope is exactly what scares them. Because hope makes people vulnerable. Hope forces people to confront truths they were avoiding. Your person sat there unable to answer immediately. And during that silence, heaven exposed something powerful. They realized they are not afraid of loving you. They are afraid you no longer love them the same way. That fear has been controlling more of their behavior than they will ever admit openly. It is why they hesitate. Why they act inconsistent. Why they suppress emotions instead of expressing them clearly. Because rejection from you would wound them more deeply than they are prepared to handle. And child, after that realization surfaced, the emotional energy around them became overwhelming. The relative eventually said something that has not left your person's mind since last night. If someone still affects you this deeply, maybe they were never meant to be temporary. That sentence entered their spirit like lightning. Because your person has spent so much time trying to convince themselves this connection was supposed to fade naturally. But it never did. No matter how much time passed. No matter who entered their life temporarily. No matter how distracted they tried to become. Your energy remained. Persistent. Unfinished. Alive. And by the time sunrise approached, your person sat there emotionally exhausted, realizing something terrifying. They are still spiritually attached to you in ways they cannot control anymore. But child, there is still one final thing heaven needs you to understand before this part ends. Right before they finally tried to sleep, your person picked up the phone one last time. Opened your conversation again. Read your name slowly. And then they typed a message they never sent. A message so honest, so vulnerable, so emotionally exposed, that even they became frightened after writing it. Because this time, they did not hide behind jokes. They did not soften their feelings. They did not pretend to be detached. This time they wrote exactly what their soul has been screaming beneath the silence. And the moment they finished typing it, something happened that made them stop completely. Their entire body went still. Their heart started racing. Because at that exact moment, another message appeared on their screen that they never expected to receive.